Hi, so my last video I asked the question, which is better, to be healed or to be held? And so you can look back at that to hear more about that. But there was a particular instance that happened not too long ago when I had a fever. And usually I always know when I have a fever because it happens the same way. It feels the same in my body. It starts with achiness up my spine, like in my spine and my neck. It feels like every joint in my vertebra is just aching and sore and just it's extremely uncomfortable. And then when the fever progresses, I get the chills and I shake and I shake so much with the chills when I have a fever that after the fever is gone, I still, for the next day or two, I'm still very achy and sore in like every joint in my body because of all the tension that I carried through the fever. So whenever I start getting the fever, it's really the afterwards that I dread the most, is like when the fever's gone, it's the soreness in my muscles from the chills and the shivering that actually is the thing that I dread the most about having a fever. And the headaches. I always have a headache after having a fever for a few days, or after the fever is over, I have a headache. So all of that usually happens. Well, this time I had a fever and I'm just laying there in their chair and just kind of resting and just, there's this moment where Sarah and Olivia left the house to go do something, and I just had the time to myself, and I'm just sitting there in the dark, and I'm feeling pretty disappointed that I have a fever. I'm feeling pretty disappointment primarily because I asked the Lord for healing and I still have a fever. Sarah and Olivia prayed for me. I still have a fever. And I just, in the moment as they left, I just immediately took that opportunity to pray about it and just honestly share my disappointment with the Lord. And the most remarkable thing happened. He healed me. And it was just this wonderful experience. I couldn't possibly describe it, except to just say that I just felt completely surrounded and wrapped in his love. I even got this image in my head of just like even how I hold Olivia when she feels sick and doesn't feel good. And I just had this image of the Lord holding me that way. And I just was so thankful for Abba's presence, for the Spirit, for making that presence known to me, and for the blood of Jesus that has made me his son, that has been the blood of adoption. And when this experience started, I didn't realize this immediately, but later I realized I stopped shivering, and the fever was not healed, at least not then. But Sarah and Olivia came back, and the experience lasted for most of the time they were gone, and they came back, and I just was so, I kept crying and then praising and then crying some more and then laughing. Just, I don't even know why I was laughing, just like uncontrolled. But anyway, and then just sort of like went into just this rest that was just amazing. And the shivering was gone, and they came back, and I was in a completely different state of mind, body and soul and spirit. And reflecting back, like I still had the fever. It seemed to just run its course. And maybe it did end early, I don't know. But what I began to think about that experience, and I found myself saying, thank God for my fever. Like I wouldn't have traded the fever for wellness. I wouldn't have traded, I guess I should say, I would have traded the fever for wellness, but I wouldn't have traded my experience of being held by Abba for wellness. To be held was the greater thing. And I was so thankful for that. And I guess, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a minute just in thinking about all of that. What really seemed to, I know what I was going. So what was the amazing thing though was that when the fever was gone, I realized I was not sore. Not only did the chills sort of go away, I really didn't have any chills. Like the rest of the course of the fever, I would start to feel kind of discouraged and disappointed again, and then the chills would start to come, and then I would just focus my attention on the love of God for me, and they would stop, and I would just rest. And when the fever was over, I didn't have any soreness. I didn't have any headache. I was just it was like nothing had ever happened. Except what had happened was my experience with the love of God, and that remained. But the fever was really has now become a part of a beautiful memory of God's love. But anyway, I just wanted to follow up my last video with that story because it really meant a lot to me, and I hope that encourages someone to really turn to God in the midst of our suffering, whatever your suffering may be, and it may be hard. And I'm not saying that it's an easy process. I just had a fever. There are people, and even myself, have gone through worse things, and the harder it is to focus on the Lord. But there's something to be found, I think, in seeking to be held. Anyway, thanks.